these are all copies of each other, right? And I just changed the number of sides on them, right? I made the 18-sided one and just copied it over. I didn't resize them. This one got smaller. Why did it get smaller? In fact, if I take these things, let's go move this to in X, all of these in 0 in X, and then at Y, let's move it to 45, and this one will move to 45, and this one will move to 45. So they're all in exactly the same place now. And again, look what happens to them in terms of their sizes. So there's 1, 2, those two seem to be pretty close to the same size, right? You can actually see it's a little bit smaller than this one. And the 6-sided one, look at how much smaller it is. Now, is that a problem?
Yeah.
Why?
Because if you model that opposed to the rest of the body.
Well, yeah, we're going to make our cylinder the size of this barrel, right? When we put a turbo smooth on it, the last thing we want to have happen is for the barrel to get smaller. That's not going to help us out a lot. So, does that help us decide which of these we should be using?
Yes.
Sure, obviously, something with more sides is going to make it easier for us to keep its size. And you can see that the yellow box around this thing is the original size of our barrel. The red is the turbo smooth size. It's going to get smaller regardless. Now, if I were to go and put supporting edges on all of these, connect 2 edges, and we'll split them up. Oops, no, to 100. Now we go back to our right view to look at these things. Look at how close we're getting now. That's really close. This is the widest point here, so we've gotten quite a bit closer. And in fact, if I go and connect that, we get even closer. This one, connect, and this one, connect. So you can see that they all end up really round. This one's gotten too small. This one's gotten a little smaller, and this one is barely noticeably smaller. Well, that kind of makes the decision for us, right? We now know, well, duh, this is probably the one we should choose, 18 sides. Now, when it comes down to the rifling, 18 sides is going to be pretty useful in another way. And that way is that when it comes to making the rifling, I'll turn off the area here, we want 6-sided rifling, right? So that's 1, skip 2, 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 back here again. There's our 6 edges, right? That's going to allow us to make the rifling a lot easier. Those are the edges that we're going to manipulate. In fact, we're not even going to manipulate edges. We're going to manipulate faces when we make the rifling. And the same deal applies. 1, skip 2, 1, skip 2. Now go back and look at that reference picture. Look, the gap between the black is about twice the width of the black. Same thing we have here, twice the width of that area. This is going to work out perfectly to make our rifle. So now, that's all the details we're going to need for our barrel, right? Now, why is that important? Why did we start with the barrel? We're not modeling the barrel. We're modeling the body. Well, the body has a cylindrical area around here that covers the round part of the barrel. Which means we should start modeling this big box out of a cylinder that will line up with our barrel about like that. Let's make it about like that. Now I'm going to rotate this thing. I'm going to turn on my angle snaps here, and we'll rotate this thing 90 degrees. And I'm going to hit Alt-X to put it in X-ray mode so I can see through it. So I'll just go and dock this thing right here, 18 sides is still correct. And I'll bring the height up until it matches about the front of that gun. There is our first element of this gun. This means that when I go to make that hole for the barrel, convert this to edible poly, all I have to do, go back to our side view, I know that I need a perfectly centered hole in this thing, right? Well, actually, this is not lined up correctly. I want the center of this to line up with the barrel.
Topher,
Yeah.
isn't what you just did a torus?
A what?
A torus, a chorus, or whatever?
A torus?
Yeah.
No, a torus is a donut.
Wasn't it like a donut? Or is
That's
it?
because later.
You're thinking of a tube, my friend.
Oh.
That's a
Right.
tube. But
Okay.
we're going to start with this object, and we'll go make our hole later. And so effectively, what I need here is this very center edge of this cylinder that we've made is going to run down the center of our barrel. Now again, the image isn't perfectly straight, and it's not orthographic, so we don't really need to pay that much attention to it. What I do want to pay attention to here is the top of the barrel is hitting in between these two edges, and the bottom of the arrow is in between them, but not quite. I'm going to move it up a little bit more. I want it to be about even on both those sides. That's going to make life a little bit simpler for me. Next, down here, this round little bit too, let's go find the front of our gun and see if we can't see what's going on along the front of it. So this is not the same model, but it is giving us a better view. So this is the cylinder we just made. There's another cylinder below it, a flat part that swoops out, and then another cylinder below that. That's what we need to capture. Now that's got it open. That's a little harder to see. But that's what we're looking for. We're looking for more reference pictures that show us different angles of the same weapon. Can be a little bit harder to find, but you just got to spend some time Googling and you'll end up finding exactly what you need. That's not bad there. You can see a little bit clearer the round of this. So this is convex. And then below that is concave, and it comes out to this flat edge. So why don't I take a copy of our cylinder, which we know is correct, and I'm just going to hold shift and drag this down and bring it down here. So the center of this one now lines up with this little peg right here. That means that I know my cylinder is now lined up with this thing, but the cylinder is too big. I need to scale it down. So I'm going to make sure I'm scaling from the center, and I'll scale it until it actually fits that rounded area. Now, I'll grab its vertices and move them out until they line up. Now you can see that this is actually on an angle here. Right? This is not straight. It curves right down to here and then straightens out for the bottom. Ours is flat straight. We're going to need to make a curve that comes down here. But for now, I'll leave it like that. Reason being, this and this have to become one object. That is going to form the front area of our gun. Now conversely, this is also going to help us figure out a little bit more in terms of the size of how thick everything else should be. Finding out how thick the gun should be is going to be very important in terms of getting it correct. And so, go back to the top. I thought there was one here that really helped with this. So here, this is how wide that body is across here. That width carries through the whole thing. This is all perfectly flat, all through here. Which means on ours, we need it to be perfectly flat through there as well. Let me type in the word view here and see if that helps anything. That's not the front of the gun. That's a little bit better. So here we can see again that width here. There's that cylindrical area that we've made. You can see how round that thing is. You can see how wide this thing is here too. So one of the things that we can do, let's get rid of the new Red Dead Redemption. Let's see if we can't find out the width of the barrel. So let's go into Photoshop, and we'll do a little bit of measuring in Photoshop. So here is, come on, open, desktop, Colt. Here's the gun, and we know that this distance is 7.5.
Is that in pixels?
Huh?
Is that in pixels?
In inches.
Inches. Oh.
Right? That's how long we figured out the barrel of this gun is. 7.5. So this distance should be 7.5, which means if I go and drag a line from here and a line from here, that is 7.5 inches. Now, is there some way that we can figure out how big 1 inch is by having 7.5 inches? Well, here, watch. If we drag a box here, this box in width is 663. So 663 pixels divided by 7.5 inches gives us 88.4 pixels per inch. So every 88.5 pixels is going to be an inch. So in Photoshop, if I go change my little marquee here from a normal to a fixed size, and we make it 88.4, or just 88, we'll have to round off. Why can't I? There we go. 88. So that's an inch. So we know our barrel is at its widest just shy of an inch, right? So this is also supposed to be 88.4. So something like that. So let's look at an inch in pixels, or in centimeters. 1 inch in cm is what? I inch. 1 inch in centimeters is 2.54 centimeters. So an inch is longer than 2.5 centimeters. So if we take 1 cm in inches, we got 0.39 for every 1. So a little bit more than a third. So what that means is that we can't really play with any of the numbers correctly to get something that's going to be exact. But what that means essentially is that my barrel is going to be, if I go to the front view, the side view, my right view here, I know that if I make a cylinder like this, the radius is 1.16, right? This is going to be in centimeters. So this number, remember, is a radius. It's from the half to the longest point. And what we need is a little bit more than 2.54 centimeters to be right. So if I go and move this guy over here, you can see that he's not quite right. So what's 2.54 divided by half? 1.27. So if we make our cylinder 1.27, that is how wide the barrel should be there. So if I rotate this out 90 degrees, and I move it inwards, that is how much of a lip we should have on this thing. So a very, very thin lip here. So I can take this and I can extrude inwards